Sarnik, coming to Canada section, the very first question I have for you: why Canada? Why not US? Why not Australia? Why not UK? Why Canada? What was the
Nothing.
motivation
I didn't
behind
want to
it?
come. I told my wife, I'm not coming. She said, no, it's very good for the children. I said, I'll be a used car salesman or I'll sell toilet brushes door to door. I'm not coming. I don't want to go there. So I was in Dubai. I had my own ad agency and I owned the largest call center. So
Oh,
I was okay.
Oh,
So
wow.
I said, I'm not going there. Why would I go? So, but you see, my two brothers, my sister, were all here. Yeah, brothers in Canada, sister, and the youngest brother in the US. And so they said, and blah, 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 we should go get together the kids and next generation. They don't know each other. Like usual emotional blackmail.
yeah.
And that
Yeah.
time I was busy, and my wife and my brother, they got into cahoots, and she
Oh,
said, so she actually got all the paperwork done for the immigration lawyer, and she gave it to me, and I was busy. I said, yeah, fine, you'll never get it, because I had just come out from a bypass. I was 39
oh,
years old when I had a
Ah,
bypass, double bypass. So it's a
okay.
very different life I had. It was running an advertising agency, running a call center. So it was high tension, high stress. And so I said, they're not going to give me the visa. So they did give me the visa.
Welcome to Canada.
I don't know.
We want you in Canada. Come on board.
and,
yes.
and so I said, you know what? We've not had a holiday for a long time. Let's go and take a vacation. I came to Vancouver. I fell in love with the Canadians. I fell in love with the people.
Yeah.
Yes, the country
Yeah.
is incredibly beautiful. I don't know how many of you have seen Vancouver. Vancouver is, in April, May, it's at its seductive best.
Yeah.
And it is gorgeous. And so, but I fell in love with the people. The people are so nice, and I said, my God, I can actually think of living a life here.
Yeah.
And that was 23 years ago.
Time
Wow.
flies.
23 years, eh?
But Ruju, I'll tell you the strangest thing. I can still remember from the time I landed in Vancouver. I can still remember the hour from 1 minute to the other. The entire feeling I was going through. I still hold that so dear to my heart,
Wow. Wow.
and I still
It must be so dear,
and I
definitely.
still try and translate the thoughts. Like, I speak to immigrants. Even now, I speak to immigrants live. So every month I have a live open Zoom call on immigrant networks where anyone can come in and talk. Anyone from my audience. And
Wow.
and so I talk to them. I ask them, what are your difficulties? Every month I talk to them. Well, several times a month, actually, because my name is also in that rotation. So, Ron, if you register for immigrant networks, you might be connected with me for a 45-minute chat. It's really hilarious. So immigrant networks is my dream, because I realized I had no network over here.
Right.
I've been, my background is 23 years in advertising and marketing, handling global brands like Coca-Cola and BMW. And when you think of that, you think that you built up this entire network, and you come here and you know no one.
Right. Exactly. Nobody.
You don't know what. I have a guy who came in here who was the vice president of one of Reliance's divisions.
Oh, wow.
And he went and he said, I was the vice president of Reliance, expecting the interviewer to be impressed.
No.
So he says, so who is Reliance?
Exactly.
So what I'm saying is that the perspectives that you have, and how you have to package yourself. I always tell immigrants, you have to evolve from the time
Right.
you come to Canada, because the Nick who was in Dubai, who was in Bombay, and what worked for him in Bombay and Dubai will not work here. Definitely. You need to recognize that, and you need to
Yeah.
reinvent yourself. And that doesn't mean that you change. It just means you're adapting to a
Exactly.
different environment. We never wore jackets and coats and all the wonderful things that we now have. And suddenly you can't get out if you're not wearing a jacket, right? And just like you change your clothes to adapt to this new environment, just like you drive on the different side of the road to adapt
Right.
to this environment. Similarly, from a corporate perspective, you have to start understanding things work differently here.
Exactly.
And the difference is not only from moving from Asia to North America. There's a marked difference between USA and Canada.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so Canada's is got its own personality, very different. We are very proud of that personality. And so it's important to do that, to understand that. And it's important to start working on creating a network.
Mhm.
Every time I spoke to immigrants, they said, what do we do, Nick? We try and connect with people on LinkedIn, and people don't connect with us. And this is a standard refrain that every immigrant has. And
Right.
so I said, but you need, first of all, it's hard. Quite honestly, when I sit down on LinkedIn every morning, I have like 16, 20 people who want to connect with me. And it's hard to understand who is a scammer,
Right. Exactly.
because if I hit accept, suddenly I'm inundated with people selling me everything from India.
Only for you, my first customer.
And I don't want that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So is that what's holding you back? I think probably so.
Hmm.
But whatever happens, it cannot happen inorganically. It has to happen in a certain process. Number one is, I tell immigrants, introduce yourself. Don't just assume that someone's going to click you on the first shot the moment you connect to them. Because yeah, you may be the vice president of Reliance. He's not going to connect with you. He doesn't know Reliance.
Nope, he doesn't. So my next question to you, because you have so much experience, right? Like you are a big time entrepreneur, and I want to open up a business in the future, and I'm sure most of our listeners also want to become entrepreneur. So what are the skill set, qualifications, experience required for one to become successful as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur?
That's an excellent question. So let's understand that between 20 to 30% of patents
Mhm.
registered in Silicon Valley belong to people who were born outside of USA.
Oh wow,
Did you know that?
I did not.
Right. And so think about this. The same qualities that we have as immigrants of leaving everything behind and taking a gamble and going into something that's completely unknown are the same qualities you have when you're starting a business.
Yeah.
But what I do say to people is, they come in here, and there are two things I tell them. Number one is, yes, by all means start a business, because that's the best way for you to create a future for yourself. And Canada is built on small and medium-sized businesses. Look at the last few organizations. BlackBerry,
Mhm.
he was an immigrant. I think he was a Greek immigrant, or Turkish. I forget. My apologies. And there are so many others. But the point is this: that immigrants should understand. Number one, don't start a business the moment you come here, because you need to learn Canada. You
Right.
need to understand the work culture. There are two things every immigrant says: I want to start a restaurant. And I say, I would start a restaurant and gift it to my biggest enemy. I don't have enemies, but that's the worst thing in life you could do.
Right.
Start a restaurant. Are you kidding me? And so, COVID or no COVID, it's a terrible business. You're stuck to that business, that restaurant. People won't turn up. You have to do everything yourself. It's one of the worst things. The second thing is, understand that you need to learn about business in Canada. So what I did when I started the Canadian Immigrant magazine, I started in the basement of my house. So it was everything was done on my own. But I went to a professional place, and I learned small business. I learned entrepreneurship, and I understood the whole process. I understood things like taxation. If you don't pay your GST or HST, the government has the power to close down your business, period. And a lot of people don't realize this. And when you come from countries like India, where you can negotiate some things, it can work out. Doesn't work out
Nope.
here.
Doesn't work here.
So you gotta understand that. Those are two very important things. The third one I would say is get yourself a group of mentors who will guide you along the way. The problem is most of us, we don't know what we don't know.
Mhm.
That's the crux of it. We don't know. So assuming that what you're doing is right is not right.
Yeah, Ron also says that you do need a mentor, like in order for you to grow. So thank you for mentioning this. This really really helped me, and definitely it's going to help our viewers as well. So you talked about when you come here, don't jump into business, start
Yeah.
with a job, right? So how is job search different? Like how is it different from India or even globally, right? From different countries. How is that different between Canada and other countries?
Part of it is, Ruju, understanding the Canadian hiring process, and the process in Canada to get rid of a person, an employee, is so rigid. It's so filled with pitfalls that it can tie you up in legal cases for years. This is the problem why people do not take a quick bet on someone. They have to be very sure. And let me take a step back. I always say that who come here, immigrants who come here, and I should include the international students who become newcomers over here, get permanent residency. They're so focused on getting that first job, they don't understand that that is only one small part of their journey. The journey is comprised of three distinct steps: getting your first job, retaining that job. No one talks about how many immigrants are let go before they are confirmed as permanent employees, because they haven't given a thought to how am I going to function in the Canadian workplace. It's very different. You still have a lot of immigrants who'll turn around and refer to the boss or to everyone as sir. That doesn't happen in Canada. That's not accepted in Canada. So the boss calls you by your first name. You're supposed to call the boss by his or her first name. These are all changes. So getting your first job, retaining that job, and growing within the job. So today, one of my mentees sent me a WhatsApp message saying, "Nick, I'm very pleased to let you know that yeah, the company has given me a promotion and extended my contract for another year." This guy came to Canada August 2019. I was introduced to him in March 2020, towards the end when the lockdown had already started. Brilliant guy, brilliant guy. He's a guru in brand management.
Oh, nice.
He was heading to Times of India.
Hmm.
This guy couldn't get a job here because no one knows who's Times of India, right? You and I, when we say Times of India, we say, "Oh, Times of India." He couldn't get a job, and it was understanding what the problem was. Most of the time the problems are problems that happen when you are inside the circle and you cannot see the woods for the trees.
Exactly.
When he created his LinkedIn profile, his resume, every time he'd meet someone who had good intentions and they'd give him a suggestion and he'd go and tweak it and tweak it and tweak it and tweak it. Finally he ended up with a resume and a profile which didn't make any sense. So I said to him, change that. I can't understand who you are. So
Right.
I made him go through an exercise. Write down who you are. What are the changes you can make in situations, in a professional scenario? So it's understanding all of these things. It's very important that immigrants understand a resume is only a first step. Number one, if you're writing a resume, please write what you did in the company. How did the company benefit because they hired Nick? Was there a 5% growth, 50%, 500% growth? Write that down because that's what the employer is looking for. Number one. Number two, your cover letter. People hate doing a cover letter. You know why? Because you have to work at it. The resume, there are 65 templates you can download from the net. All of them are correct. But your cover letter has to be specific. I've met immigrants. I was one of them who'd send out 30, 50 resumes a day, and I'd tell my wife, see, I sent out 100 resumes today. It doesn't make a difference. You're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. Definition.
Okay. Exactly.
So it's understanding that when I talk to my mentees, I want you to do one resume sent out every day, but I want you to spend an entire day writing that cover letter. I want you to spend time selling yourself. That's your selling tool.
Mhm.
If you don't use that, that's the opportunity you've lost. That's very important. So there are like your question is very, very, very important. How do you look for a job here? Number one, it's not the same as it was. Nothing that worked in India or in Nigeria or in the Philippines, where most immigrants are coming from, they're not going to work here. You need to do things with what's going to work in Canada. You need to send out a proper resume. I've seen people who've sent resumes where it's ridiculous. It's in such bad language, poor language, that I wouldn't even look at that person. And it's sad because the person's technical skills may be great.
Exactly. By no fault of theirs, right? They're
No,
just not
they
aware.
don't know what they don't know, Ruju.
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
how do they find out? Now there's lots of these settlement agencies and lots of places that immigrants can go to, but today's immigrant is very different. The immigrant who used to come in at my time, they used to be in their 40s. Today the immigrants, the cutoff age is 37. So you're getting younger immigrant, number one. Number two is you're getting immigrants who are digitally savvy. Everything is on this. I remember 2017, I went to India to sell our ancestral property, and we had the buyer, we had everything, and he was sending everything to me on WhatsApp. And and I feel like this, like I've come from a third world country, which is Canada, but these guys were like whiz past me. And so this is very important for us to understand. When you're coming to Canada, you need to embrace every single thing, and the importance of mentorship can never, ever, ever be. I can't express how important that is.
All right, I'll give it a try.
No. Try not. Do. Or do not. There is no try.
There are two more things
Yeah.
that I mentioned. So I call this my three-legged stool, Ruju, Ron. Volunteering, mentorship, and networking. This is my three-legged stool.
Oh, wow.
This is the triumvirate, and I think it's something that all immigrants should focus on. If you use these three as a newcomer, I can guarantee you your job search will be shorter. I had a guy who came
Excellent.
from Malaysia, who was an engineer, who did his engineering in Canada and returned to Malaysia. Okay. And he was in Malaysia for 20 years and then decided to come back. He came back here. He landed in Canada on 15th of March, 2020. I got in touch with his resume, his cover letter was a stream of consciousness. And because he was trying to say everything that he wanted to say, but that's not necessary. You have to please understand, you have to keep something for when you have an interview. You can't finish talking about everything at that time. So I mentored Steve, and
Yeah.
and Steve got a job 5 days after his quarantine period is over.
That's amazing.
And I didn't do anything special. All I did was I was able to see what he was doing wrong, and it was not that he was silly. Most of the people I mentor are far smarter than me, far more intelligent, and far more educated than I am. But it's because they can't see it. They can't see what they're doing wrong. And so I mentored 26 people between March and June, and every single one of them working.
Oh, nice.
This
Every
is
Good for
single
during
one
the
of
you.
them.
pandemic. Keep in mind, during the pandemic, he took on the toughest task of 26 students
Yeah.
and run 26 mentees, and all 26 got their jobs right
Within
now.
within a month. Yes, yes,
Wow.
yes. And
Brilliant.
so going back to what keeps me awake during the pandemic, 1 million immigrants were let go of. 1 million. Think about that. 1 million immigrants were suddenly unemployed. And
Yeah.
I spoke to them. I spoke to these people. I spoke to people who were like this big engineer, big burly sick guy who was crying on the phone and telling me I want to kill myself because I have nothing left in life.
Hmm.
I can either take the CERB money and pay the rent or put food on the table for me and my wife.
Hmm.
And I had to keep talking to him until his wife came because he was frozen. Today, that guy is out there. He's a senior engineer. He's a project manager. He's working in a senior position, earning far more than, and those days are gone. But remember that darkness that exists for, especially for the newcomer, that less than a 1 year period for that person, terrible. It's very scary.
Our last podcast guest, Nishant Kalia, same thing, lost his job. Him and his wife lost the job, but they kept on going. They started their own, they kept themselves busy, got certification, started their own YouTube channel, sharing their experience, keeping optimistic. And both of them ended up getting jobs in 6 months. But it's important to stay positive and to surround yourself with
Very
positive people.
difficult.
And I'm
Yeah.
very happy that we're having this conversation with you today to share that, to get across that dark tunnel, dark phase. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and just reach out, and there are people out in the community that can help you.
And
Exactly.
that's the point at which, Ron, I realized that the importance of peer-to-peer networking. Everyone doesn't want to talk to an expert. They want to talk to someone like us.
Hmm.
We are all in the same boat together, right? They want to have that professional community, yet a community
Yes, bingo.
that
Exactly.
supports each other. And so that's why Immigrant Networks was created. And I'm so thrilled with the way this morning I got a call, and we're going to be doing some amazing stuff with Immigrant Networks in the next 4 weeks. We're going to be launching our apps on Android and iOS. And the technology is going into different directions. There are different opportunities that immigrants will have to express themselves, to talk, to help each other, because that's what makes a difference. So I always tell an immigrant, if you get a job, don't go away, come back and help another immigrant. That's what your job is.
Exactly. Well, I just wanna say I'm so happy to see the passion in you at the age of 65. It just
35. Who is saying 60? 35.
No, I'm
sorry,
actually
65 minus 30.
63. I'm 63.
Okay.
I'm 63. I
Well,
will
I
be
was going to say,
64
even
in
though you're
June.
63, you look like 53. So good
The
for you on
energy of
that.
a 33.
But
That's what I'm
I
saying.
just love, your passion about helping people. That's amazing. And of course, you say that, they're smarter. Of course, they're smarter. But having said that, your mentorship is what they helping them. So that's
Thank
amazing.
you.
So now what about students, like students who want to come here and study here, take certain programs? Like, is there any things that they should look out for when they're selecting a program? And are there any like scholarships available for them, or what sort of organizations they should join
Excellent.
that could help
Yeah.
them get the
Yeah.
job faster and so on?
So first of all, and I can talk specifically about India because India is right now the largest contributor of students coming in, international students. And we know from statistics that almost 80% of Indian students want to stay on here, and as a whole, international students, 60 to 70% stay on here. Okay, so the numbers are pretty staggering. We're talking about a number that is, Ron, you'll be surprised, bigger than the immigration number.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ruju is looking surprised.
Yeah, I am.
So what's the problem? The problem is, even now, the students are looking at, let's go to Canada at any cost. This at any cost has got to stop. So here's what happens. Do you know what is the number one program that students come and take? It's HR, because it's the easiest. You can get it at a college that is not recognized, and you can come in, but it's not recommended because I meet them every day at Superstore. They're the cashiers. And I don't want that to happen because it's going to be a hard hole for them to get out of that place and get back to the professional level. So please choose carefully and start understanding what are your skill sets and what is your pasha. What do you like doing, right? You can't go into something just because it could be a ticket to coming to Canada, because it makes it much more hard for you, because you'll suddenly come to Canada and realize that HR that you thought was in India is not HR here.
Definitely. Thank you.
So the important point there is to connect it to your passion, to your ikigai. What is that, makes you alive?
Yeah.
Don't just take a course for that because somebody said, the agent said, this is a great course, very easy. You can easily go and become PR. And then your life is set.
Yes.
Do more research, trying to figure out how hard it is to actually break into the HR community. And it's very hard to break into the HR community. You got the CHRP certification. It's such a close community, and you got to know Canadian employment law and whether you can, how many years is it going to take for you to establish yourself as HR, trying to understand that and then reverse engineer it. And that's important.
Yeah.
So we're coming to the final part of the podcast. We're going to the takeaways. So if we can give, something that people can take away from this podcast, the first question under the takeaways is any insights to the new immigrants who are currently looking to move to Canada, including the international students, any forums, Facebook group, blogs, any specific certifications or courses?
They know all of them. Ron, today's newcomer is so smart. Whatever I say, they'll tell me 25 more sites to go. That they know. Here are things that I want to talk about, which might, and I know that sometimes when I say things, it hurts people, but the truth will hurt. It is meant to hurt because it is meant to make you alert to the fact that you don't know what you're doing to your own professional capabilities.
Right.
And the first one and the most important one is the language. It's not enough that you pass the IELTS. It is not. Corporate communications in workplaces. How do you write a presentation? How do you write emails? Everything is up there. There is a lot that they have to understand, that they have to learn. The biggest thing I should say to newcomers is become a sponge. Become a sponge. Get your environment. Watch. I'll tell you, I'll tell you my first day, my first job in Canada. I had no idea what I was doing. Okay. So I'd spent 23 years in advertising. I was a senior advertising person. I should talk about marketing strategy, positioning strategy, brand management. And my first job was as an advertising salesperson selling advertising space in a magazine. I've never done that. So fortunately for me, my boss, who was the director of sales and marketing, her cabin was very close to mine. So I sat down at my desk. I had this computer, and my boss had shown me the Maximizer program where the database was. And I looked at that, and I started looking up at that. But all the time while I was looking at that, I was listening. I was listening to her talking. Right. Oh, hello. How are you today? How's it? Is it warm and sunny in Toronto? And she'd chat people up, and she'd start talking, and I was soaking up every single sentence.
Yeah.
That day, I made my first sale. And my boss came to me and says, I have never seen someone on their first day make a sale. And he gave me a $50 note.
Oh, wow.
I'll never forget that day. You have to become a sponge. Wherever you go, you're always learning. So this is number one, Ron. Number two is get used to speaking to strangers, for God's sakes. Start speaking to strangers everywhere. When I would go out, and there was a time in my life, I would be literally flying across Canada, delivering my 7 Success Secrets speech. And I used to tell them, go to the store, go to the grocery store. This is your job. Go to the grocery store, speak to a stranger, not from your home country. Speak to a stranger. What is this broccoli? It's a funny looking thing. I've never seen it. How do you cook it? How does it taste? Blah, blah. Anything, talk about anything. I don't care. The price has gone up, has gone down. Is this fresh? Is this stale? Whatever. You have to hold that conversation for 5 minutes.
It's so funny that you say that, Nick. When I came here, like I just came here by myself, right? And I was like, what do I do? Like, and I was not too confident because I studied in Gujarati medium. I never studied in English medium. So my confidence level was already down. So I'm like, what do I really do? So I just tested it out, like you said. I didn't go to grocery store, but I used to go to coffee shop, and I'll just talk to a cashier, and I'm like, give me a coffee, and then I'll just try to chat or maybe ask certain questions and stuff, and that kind of brought in a lot of
Yeah.
confidence in me. And then I'm like, okay, let me work in that. So when I was a student, I used to work in a coffee shop as well, and that kind of also helped me a lot. So glad that you mentioned it. I think we are on the same page there.
And strangely, Ruju, every single one of these things that I'm saying is built into immigrant networks, because when you're matched with someone from Nigeria, they're not going to understand Gujarati or Hindi.
Nope.
And you're going to have to speak in English, but it'll build up your self-confidence. And when you're
Exactly.
when you're talking to them, you'll start understanding the power of presentation. Because am I looking right on the camera? Because you're going to be interviewed online. Am I looking right on the camera? How do I come across? Do I come across as someone like sitting like this, like this? And so if that is the way I come across, then that's something wrong with me. I should correct that. These are all things that are that are built into immigrant networks, and that's why I'm so excited, because it allows people to extract all of this organically. So speaking to immigrants, speaking to strangers is very important. And I had a really interesting question in the last Zoom call I had, and there was a lady who said, this is all very fine for people who are outgoing like you, Nick, but I am not an outgoing person, and for me to get into a networking thing is difficult. And so I think that's such a valid
Valid.
point. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
said, number one, let's understand this. Normal networking would be very hard for you because you're in a public space. Everyone's looking at everyone else, right? But in this case, you're networking from home on your phone or on your computer. No one's watching you. Number one. Number two is it's very safe. So everyone that we work with on our network, our audience, is personally verified by me, in addition to the software that the computer creates. And we take security very seriously. Harassment, racism, anti-racism, all of these things are very sacred at my place. So we not only have the ability to, and you have to sign up through your LinkedIn profile, so
Right.
you won't misbehave, right?
Exactly.
The other thing is that if we ban someone, we ban them at the IP level, so they cannot come in using that internet connection at all. So that's how
Yeah.
seriously we take it. Our business is not about making money. It's about making lives.
So the final question for the podcast is your final words of wisdom for those who wish to move to Canada.
There's good news. Every one of you, as every immigrant coming to Canada, will get a job. The trick is, how long will it take for that to happen? That is the key thing.
Yeah.
That is what I'm trying to work on. That is what I'm trying to shorten. When I came to Canada and I looked at, this is now 23 years ago, and I looked at a survey that came out. It says it takes an immigrant 10 years to reach the same position that they were in their home country. And I said, what a phenomenal waste for me as an immigrant.
Yeah.
It's going to be 10 years before I'm at that same level. Why would I, and this is what got me really, really moving into this direction. And I said, if I can reduce 10 years by 1 year, then 2 years, then I got greedy. Can I reduce it by 5 years? So yeah. So I think that's the key thing. You will all get jobs. Have faith. Keep positive. Get the negative people out of your life. Keep the focus. And understand my meaning of the word focus is follow one course until successful.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Nice.
Thank you, Nick Noorani. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today. The insights, the takeaways are brilliant, and I'm sure our listeners are going to be blown away. And I can personally testify to this. I landed 15 years ago, and thanks to the leadership that you have provided in the community, working with different levels of the government, literally writing the book on immigration, pushing the envelope and challenging what is the norm, and breaking the glass ceiling in the only way Nick can do it in terms of you make them laugh, but get the point in, right? The carrot and stick. And I love it. And I appreciate all the hard work that you're doing from the West Coast, trying to, create a change where people can come together and talk. Just get each side to talk and understand each other, break down the barriers, understand the person. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more organizations that are going to hire people that don't look like them, that don't talk like them, that probably don't even eat like them. And in the future in Canada, where everybody finds it a lot more easier to blend in and to become successful, and they can stand on the shoulders of you and us as we continue to build community and continue to support each other. We are all in the same boat. We're there for each other. You can share it with us, and we will do the best we can to help you, to extend that hand and pay it forward. And I love that note that you mentioned about what's your ask from the new immigrant when you help them get the job. It's not that you come back and pay, but you come back and help someone else become successful so that you can pay it forward. And I love it. I thank you for all the good work that you're doing. May God bless you with long life, and continue to mentor us and other people that are in the community doing the good work and making Canada one of the best countries in the world to live in.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
I wanted to say, in addition to what Ron said, I just want to say that I was so amazed and I was so happy just hearing you, right? Just listening to you speak about your feelings around immigration and how you want to help out people. I think that says it all, that it's in you to help out people to become successful in their career, to see their pain points and help them in the right, guide them in the right direction and make them successful. And I think that shows in your face, and that shows in, you have the zeal to help out, and that's incredible, Nick. I am for sure inspired by you a lot, and I'm pretty sure, a lot of our immigrants who are willing to listen to this podcast are definitely going to hear more from you for sure.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Ruju. Thank you very much. And guys, have a nice and happy long weekend, and we will keep in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.